This show is pre-recorded and cannot accept your calls, giving you a great opportunity to sit back, listen, and enjoy.
Welcome to Just Say Yes with your host, intuitive life coach, Betsy Gutting.
Welcome and happy first Monday in March. I have a fantastic show planned for you today. I am so grateful that you're here. Thank you for joining me for Just Say Yes. I am very excited to bring on my special guest, Russell Delman, to talk about the embodied life tools for awakening to the precious present moment. And this is your host, Betsy Gutting. You are listening to Just Say Yes. We're here on 1-2 Radio, changing the way that you make magic in your own life and in the world. I'm an intuitive life coach. I'm a teacher and the author of the new book, The Magic of Saying Yes, Answering Your Heart's True Calling. My intention is to empower and inspire you to free yourself to follow your heart, to hear the messages of your soul, and to say yes to your inspired, wise guidance, one baby step at a time. So I'm going to bring Russell on very shortly, but first I want to invite you to come on over to the Facebook chat room at 1-2 Radio and hang out with us. It's where like-minded souls like you commune, come together to join. And as you've probably heard the phrase, where two or more gather, positive, powerful changes occur. So we're having a party over at 12radio.com. Just go to 12 Radio. This is the easiest way to get to the chat room, and then click on chat, and you will be in with all of us. And you are welcome to post any question that you would like Russell to answer. When we get to the second half of the show, we're going to be taking calls and answering questions in the chat room. So I just know, I can just feel it in my heart and in my bones. It's going to be a wonderful show. Today is the 3rd of March, and in the ancient science of numbers, numerology, a 3-day powerfully supports communication of all kinds, counseling, and creative expression. So to me, the number 3 is really playful. It's light, it's fun energy, and it's funny because right before the show, I always go out on Mondays to a cafe, and I just like to be out among people and not be in the private space of my own mind while I'm preparing for the show. It's just more grounding for me. So there was this adorable little girl. She was maybe 3 years old. She had her hair, strawberry blonde hair, in pigtails with bright red ribbons and a bright red shirt with this sequin pink lollipop, plaid red skirt. And she was just circling around the cafe, just kind, everyone on their laptops. And she was skipping through the cafe, and she completely it felt like she's embodying all of our inner child right now, saying, don't forget to have fun no matter what you're doing. So that's the energy of a 3-day for me. It's a really good day to ask yourself, is there any place that I'm holding back? And give yourself permission to let your beautiful light shine, to paint, play with color, have a courageous conversation, journal your thoughts, and just release your offerings into the world. And we just had a new moon in Pisces on Friday, so we're all still swimming in this luscious energy of new beginnings. And I wrote a blog post about this new moon energy. If you want to read that, go over to betsygutting.blogspot.com after the show. And if you'd like to give yourself support for your new beginning and you haven't yet read my book, The Magic of Saying Yes, it is very appropriate for any transition or fresh start. A wise, compassionate guide that will support you in beautifully unfolding into the next chapter of your life. Okay, so without further ado, I want to introduce my very special guest, Russell Delman began to study Zen meditation and somatic psychology in 1970 as an undergraduate student in psychology. His training and personal relationship with Moshe Feldenkrais began in 1975, and he has since helped train more than 2,500 Feldenkrais teachers all over the world. Other powerful influences for Russell have been nonviolent communication and his work with Mother Teresa in India. Russell offers seminars and retreats around the world, as well as a 3-year mentorship program called the Embodied Life. Welcome, Russell, to the show.
Thank you so much, Betsy. I'm happy to be here.
I'm very happy to have you here. And I want to can we just jump right in?
You go ahead, girl.
So here's the thing. I really enjoyed looking at your website, and you have a lot of great articles on there, and so much to offer in that way, including your retreats and seminars. And I know we're going to get into that more. My work is about empowering people to hear and follow their heart's true calling. So I would love to start by going back to the beginning of your career when you were first planting the seeds, and just ask you how you got to this place of teaching worldwide and training other teachers, and how you got to be doing this work as your dharma, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, so when I look back, Betsy, I realized that so much of it was what we can call grace, or others would call luck, or the contribution I can say that I consciously made, and I can't even say at the beginning how conscious it was the courage to follow my heart, the courage to take the steps in the direction that I was being called. And so, when I tell people that I feel so blessed and lucky to have found all this, they always say, well, you had a part in it too. And I like to say, well, at the time, it just felt like, well, of course, this is the most important thing. How do I pursue this? And in a way, I was lucky that I was at a rather young age. I was 18 years old when I started to meditate. And I was drawn to it, as are so many people, because of suffering, because of pain. I was having my first true broken heart at the time. And so there was a certain, the heart breaks, it also can open. It can be crushed, but it often can open. And those cracks, like Leonard Cohen likes to say, they let the light in.
Yes.
And I was blessed that somehow at that time, I was already interested in psychology and somehow in human potential psychology. And I just read an article on Zen meditation, and it just went all the way in. And I just started meditating without a teacher. For the first 5 years, no teacher, but sitting every day.
That takes self-discipline.
Yeah, it does. And you know what I saw so clearly, and this is just so funny, because this is, this is 43 years ago. I saw the essence of what I'm teaching today.
What do you mean by you saw it?
Well, I realized, and this is why Zen resonated so much with me, I realized that the great majority of my life, I was lost in my own internal dialogue, my own inner speak about this and that, and was I okay, and was I not okay. I was lost in the stories living inside my own mind.
Yes. Everyone can relate to that, I know.
Right. And I saw so clearly, just, again, because of this opening at the time, that, oh my God, what they're talking about in meditation, in this kind of meditation, that, that the moment is the only time you're really alive, and the only time your life can truly transform is if you are awake in this present moment.
Yes.
And when I saw how true that was and how 99% of the moments I was missing, it got absolutely clear what had to be the center of my life.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what I teach today. I mean, I had to work out the forms and why the body was so important in learning to be present, and why being able to have a different relationship to your own feeling life was important in order to be able to be present, to have a different relationship to your own thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So,
go ahead.
Yeah, so I saw clearly that presence was the key, and that to be present, we needed to learn how to be with our thoughts and our feelings and our bodily sensations in different ways than most people around me were already being. And so that became my path.
Yes, it's so rich. I mean, you've said so much just right there. So the first thing that comes to mind for me is that so many of us wake up in the morning and we go, okay, what do I have to do today?
Right.
We go right to that place of doing what needs to be accomplished, what's on my list. And that part of that can just be its own. It's like what you were saying, that story of my life, and even the story of my life being that I must achieve, that I must produce, that I, even why we're here can be a story.
Right.
And so, when I think of meditation, I think of not being in the place of doing, but resting. You use the words resting comfortably in the present moment. And I think of allowing myself to rather than go straight to doing, to be in that being place so I can receive and connect with my own soul. And I know that you teach the embodied life, which is what you've created in your school and everything that you do as you travel around the world teaching. And I'm wondering if you can give us a sense of the different elements that you incorporate into, you've created this sort of model of wholeness that you're offering to the world and have been.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Betsy. Well, first, even before I get into that, I just want to affirm what you were saying at the beginning. I want to affirm that most of us are living rather complex lives where one of the biggest challenges for I'm guessing most of the people listening to this, has to do with time, has to do with how many things are in their appointment book, and how many things that, the sense that almost like being on a treadmill rather than being on a journey.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
And that's not how we want to feel. We don't want to feel like a treadmill.
Right. And I'm guessing that the people who are in your audience really resonate to this dichotomy. Am I on a treadmill or am I on a journey?
Absolutely.
And that feeling that how is it that my life feels like it's overwhelming me rather than opening the doors to my unfolding.
Beautifully said.
Right. And so this is a real question for us. How do we take responsibility for our lives, for our, we could say spiritual life, we could say our deeply human life. How do we take responsibility for that and meet the demands, the mortgages, the rents, the getting the kids to school, or taking care of all the things we've got on our emails and our et cetera, et cetera. How do we navigate that?
Yes.
Right. So the first thing I want to say about that is once we see clearly that if I am unconscious, meaning if I am not in presence, I will be overwhelmed by the demands of others, the demands of my schedule, the demands of my life. That once we see that clearly enough, then we get to this threshold where we need to say, what is the most important thing in my life?
Mm-hmm.
And this is really a spiritual question, or I like to say, deeply human question. I'm here I like to say, people don't like to hear it, but I like to say, we're here for a very short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
If we are lucky enough to be conscious when we die, we will realize, oh my God, it went so quickly.
Yes.
And we'll say, how am I living today that's congruent with that realization?
Mm-hmm.
And can I take care of what we think of as the mundane, everyday, doing the dishes, going to the grocery store, all that stuff, can all that live within a larger setting of my journey?
Yes.
And when people
Absolutely.
have that, there isn't this dichotomy between, well, that's my spiritual life and this is doing the dishes, or that's my spiritual life. I don't have time for what's really important to me because I have kids and I have to go to work and I'm working at a job I don't really love. And what I'm saying is that is taking responsibility for our life to say, whatever are the circumstances, whether I have a disease or I have money problems or I just lost the love of my life, whatever are our circumstances are held within this larger setting of our unfolding.
I love that you... Yes, go ahead.
When that is true, then we can use the circumstances of our life for our awakening. When we are fighting the circumstances of our life, I don't have the job, I don't have the relationship, my wife, my husband are not supporting me. When we live in where that is the center, then we feel like we're missing our life because we are.
Yes. Yes. We're missing our life and it's missing us, right?
Right. Yeah. It's waiting for us to show up. It's like the present moment is this absolutely generous, loving magnet that says, I'm here when you're ready. I'll never go away.
Yes.
Please visit me more often.
Yes, I love that you're talking about it in terms of taking responsibility for your life, because I had a turning point at one point when I realized I was on that treadmill and this was doing the work that I'm doing now. I want to make that clear because I think a lot of us say, well, when I'm living my passion, when I'm making money doing what I then I'll be happy.
Right.
And I was already, making a living, so to speak, doing the work that I love. However, that pattern of sort of when I have the next thing, whatever that is,
right?
Or I need to fix this in my life. This is wrong. This needs fixing. Judging the circumstances of my life. So the turning point for me was when I decided, and this goes to your point about being responsible for your life. When I decided that no matter what was happening in my life, my first priority was always to feel good, no matter what. And in our culture, that can be a somewhat of a radical statement because some people think, well, that just means you're just going to be la-ti-da all over the place, or you're not going to get, the ego's afraid that you're not going to, my ego was always afraid, well, you're not going to get your work done if you feel that good. But that's just the ego will always come up with, with those kinds of stories. So that was a big turning point in my life. So I really, and it doesn't mean that I still am not navigating things that I wish were different. It just means that I know that, as we say, we create our life from the inside out, and it begins with creating peace on the inside.
Right. So yes. I want to jump in there and say, it's wonderful to hear. I have it a slightly different, and it's a difference that I want to put out there, not objecting to anything you said.
Absolutely.
Is I don't have the sense of feeling good all the time. What
Yes.
I have the sense is not being in conflict with my life, not fighting what is, and realizing that there's room for sadness, there's room for grief, there's room for disappointment, there's room for anything.
Yes.
That I don't need to push anything away, and I don't need to let my own stories and my own reactions perpetuate the challenging state.
I'm glad you made that distinction. And because I'm always moving through my emotions, and we're always having them no matter what, right? In ways that we might consider negative emotions or whatever, like you said, disappointment, despair, grief, and all of that. So yes, it's not about always feeling good, but it's about well, it goes back to presence and acceptance.
Yes.
And for me, that point was about putting my well-being first.
Right.
Rather than having the circumstances of my life keeping on thinking that those were what was responsible for how I was feeling.
Right. There we go. That's right. And another way to say that is, and this can help people, if you can get this point, it takes you very far and keeps you from wasting a lot of time, which is coming into presence, coming into the actual situation, not your opinion about it. Your opinion can be in the background, your preferences, your disappointments, that's all in the background. But in the foreground is, this is what is true right now. How do I relate to it in a life-giving way?
Beautiful.
And whether that's a diagnosis of cancer or that is winning the lottery, how do I relate to it in a life-giving way? Because this is what's true right now.
Yes.
And the point of that is that it's not, as you were saying, it's not the circumstances that determine our inner state. It's the stories we tell ourselves about our circumstances and how we use our attention in the present moment. Those are the key determinants of the quality of our life at any given moment.
Yes. So Russell, we're going to coming up on a break. We're having a break in about 3 minutes. So give us a quick example of that. I know you've mentioned some examples, but maybe a quick example, and what in your workshop you have, these 3 different tools that you use.
Right. So, so there are 2 different things I'd like to get to. I don't know if I can do it in 3 minutes, but we'll
That's
start.
okay. We'll begin and we'll come back, and we've got an hour. So yes, go ahead.
Great. So the main ways that I've learned to approach coming into this kind of presence is, first, that there's a ground in a meditation practice, and that meditation is nothing fancy. It's the simplest, most direct essence of Zen, which is turning in your body in this moment to feel your breath, your ground, to hear the sounds. You're not disconnected from the world, but you're settled into the present moment, and you're noticing what you add to the present moment. So you're noticing. You're not trying to fight the thoughts or feelings, but you're not letting them carry you away. It's what I call embodied meditation. You're here and you keep returning. You don't stay in presence. You keep returning to presence. And you're committed to that. The second part, so that's one leg. The second part is practices to bring you into your body, because your body is always in the present moment. And these movements called Feldenkrais movements are brilliant for helping you be in the present moment. And I can describe those more later. The third part is what I call guided inquiry, which is learning how to be with your feeling life, your emotions, your situations of your life in ways that keeps you from getting stuck in your historical patterns. So you notice how you think, how you feel, and ways of approaching that. So I have many different practices we do to help you notice how you relate to your own feelings and your own thinking.
Beautiful.
Those are the
and
3 legs.
Perfect. Okay, so Russell, we're going to get back to more of that when we come back from the break. I want to let everyone know that we are going to be taking your calls. The phone lines are going to be open. So if you have a question or comment for Russell, call into the show. The number is 218-862-7200, extension 870-303. And we will be back in 5 minutes with more of Just Say Yes with me, your host, Betsy Gutting. See you back in 5. Hi, it's Betsy Gutting, host of Just Say Yes. Would you like to free yourself to follow your heart? Well, in my new book, The Magic of Saying Yes, Answering Your Heart's True Calling, I guide you on a transformational adventure to cross the bridge from where you are now to where you truly want to be. I help you forge an intimate bond with your inner wise guide, your soul, the part of you that has your answers, so you can let go of the past and embrace a brand new beginning. I am so excited to help you find your passion, your purpose, and say yes to your heart's true calling. Take my hand and I'll walk with you across the bridge from uncertainty and confusion into clarity, confidence, and calm. It's the magic of saying yes. Get your coffee today on Amazon.com.
Welcome to Just Say Yes with your host, intuitive life coach, Betsy Gutting.
And welcome back to part 2 of the show. This is your host, Betsy Gutting. You are listening to Just Say Yes. My guest is Russell Delman, founder, creator of the Embodied Life School. And in this hour, we are talking about awakening to the power of the present moment. We are taking your calls. If you have a question or comment for Russell, please call into the show. We would love to have you join the conversation. The phone number to call in is 218-862-7200, and then just press extension 870-303. I'm very much looking forward to bringing Russell back on, and we have one caller. So caller, if you will hold on the line for just a couple of moments here, I have a couple of quick announcements, and then I'll bring Russell back on. So I would love to stay connected with you. And one great way to do that is to find me on Facebook. My page is Betsy Gutting JD. So if you want to go over there and click like and leave your comment about the show, I would love to hear your feedback. Another great way to stay connected with me is through my monthly inspirational newsletter. And when you sign up for my newsletter on my website, which is betsygutting.com, I will send you a free gift of my guided meditation CD, Guided Meditations for Awakening Your Passion. And if this is the month that you are really ready to invest in your own well-being, if you're ready to say yes to your heart, consider coaching with me. You can check out my coaching pages on my website again, betsygutting.com, and get all the information about working together. I would love to be your guide in taking you across the bridge from where you are now to where you truly desire to be. So let's get back to the show. Russell, are you still with me?
I am here.
Yay. I'm really enjoying talking with you. You just have a lovely, calming, inspirational, and just a very grounding way about you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My pleasure. So in the last part of the first half of the show, we were just talking about the 3 legs of the embodied life.
Mm-hmm.
And you were talking about presence, you were talking about being in the body, and you were talking about guided inquiry.
Yes.
So continue, will you, please?
Yeah. So let me just say a little bit more. What I realized, as I said at the very beginning, that somehow we need to get friendly with our own thoughts, our own feelings, and our own sensations. Because every moment of your life is a unique combination of these three ingredients. You're always in some various kind of constellation of thinking, feeling, and sensing. And once we get clear on that, it's quite simple. I mean, thinking, feeling, and sensing make up every moment. And if you're not in a friendly relationship with your own processes of thought, your own processes of feeling, which includes emotion but is not only emotion, and with your own sensations in your body, then you'll be struggling with your life. So the embodied life work, we learn to sit in meditation so that we are just the present space in which thoughts, feelings, and sensations come and go. And we learn how to observe and be present for and even take care of the elements of the moment, the thoughts, feelings, and sensations. And then in the movement work, these Feldenkrais movement lessons work in a very fascinating way. They're gentle, and they're called awareness through movement. It's a way of growing awareness through your bodily movement. And in an interesting way, and this is different than some of the other great systems of Tai Chi and yoga and all like that, is Feldenkrais had a real understanding of the way the nervous system creates patterns of movement, and that these patterns are very connected to our self-image, how we see ourselves, how we carry ourselves in the world. And I think your listeners would understand. It's like any theater director knows, or an actor knows, that how you carry your body is a statement of how you feel in your inner world. And it's not a question only of posture or a question only of body language. It's really that our old patterns of thinking and feeling are embedded in certain patterns of breathing, of sitting, of how we stand, how our shoulders are. And Feldenkrais saw that there were some very gentle ways of inviting new patterns into your nervous system. And this creates actually not only that you feel better in your body, but it's an opening in your nervous system for new patterns of behavior. And that's pretty remarkable.
Yes.
So the Feldenkrais work is kind of like a 20th and now 21st century Western yoga, we could say, in that it's completely integrated, mind and body, and it actually is a kind of helps, what I like to say, it helps create an infrastructure for you to develop new patterns in your nervous system, in your ways of thinking and feeling. And that's pretty exciting to have that support in our bodies.
Very exciting.
Right. And then the last part, so the one part is meditation, second part are these movement practices, and the last part is a general category of these guided inquiries, which is another way of doing the same thing, which means a way of more directly looking at what are the kinds of mental patterns I would like to grow. For example, if these practices that we'll do in the workshop this weekend, next weekend in Seattle, practices for growing gratitude. Because I realize that when people develop the capacity for moving their attention to the ways in which they are being blessed in this very moment. In this moment where there are maybe some other difficulties, there are also, if they learn to pay attention in a certain way, there are also blessings that are coming their way right now.
Mm-hmm.
And when people can sense the blessings, the natural response is to feel grateful. So I like to say to my students, you can live in a shower of blessings, and you cultivate the field of gratitude where you go through life feeling grateful, even when you have challenging situations.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just one example of a very life-giving inner state that's very helpful to develop. And there are very clear practices anyone can do that helps you to develop these states.
And of course, when we're in that state of gratitude, then everything changes. Our inner landscape changes. We see possibilities. We open up, and then it's like we're no longer in that resistance and not seeing what is there for us to say yes to.
Exactly. That's really, and you start finding that more wonderful things are coming your way.
Yes,
because is a kind of miracle.
Yeah, wonderful things are always coming our way, right? It's just that we can't see them when we're in this place. Russell, I want to go ahead and take a call because I believe we still have a caller on the line, and we can put this into practical action here.
Let's do it.
Okay, Kimberly, you're on the air.
Hi.
Hi, you have a question for Russell.
Yeah, I've been kind of living or experiencing a lot of what you're talking about today. A couple years ago, I had this incident, and it completely threw me out of present time. And I started, like, this weird cycle of thought where I was like, oh, if I'd done this would have happened, and if I'd done that would have happened. And I was missing the present moment, and I was mad at myself because I knew I was missing the present moment, but then I couldn't get back to, seeing my miracle. I saw my miracles, but I was like missing them because I was thinking about the past. And I'm still, it's like 2 years later, and it's been a really long journey for whatever reason, and I feel like I'm there. I realized instead of thinking about why, I was like, why this is happening, to just try and make it stop happening.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of a shift for me when I stopped questioning and being mad about why it was happening. But I still feel some pressure, especially from my family, my mom, to like move forward, and it's distracting me from being present and getting back to my goals and just being. And I'm a little angry because it's affected my career, I feel like, and I don't know. I just had.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're still experiencing, looking back on the past, you're still experiencing pressure from the outside, so to speak, on what you should do or how you should be, and you're not feeling the energy and the excitement and forward movement of moving forward on the things that you really want to move forward on. Is that a true encapsulation, Kimberly?
Yeah, I'm trying to look back and get that joy back. And
yes, get your joy back. That's beautiful. So let's let Russell jump in. You want to jump in, Russell?
Yes. Well, thank you, Kimberly. It's actually, I'm very grateful for the question, because I was just, before you asked the question, I was talking about the growing of these, we could say, life-giving states. But that's only one part of it. The other part is how to be with our troubled states in a more life-giving way. And we need both of these. We need to grow the joyful, grateful states, but we also need to find, how can I be with the reality of a challenging situation, a challenging mind state, and be with it in a way that liberates the energy within it. So did you get that part so far, Kimberly?
Yeah, I get that.
Okay, so what I want to say is the kind of pressure that you're talking about, that you're feeling from your family, but I'm guessing also something in your inner life is saying, well, how can I take my next steps forward? How do I go from this really challenging 2 years ago to somewhat challenging now? And what I would say is, first, I just want to really acknowledge that you've carried yourself quite far already. So let's not skip over that you were in a really difficult state, and it sounds like it's gotten less so. Is that true?
Yeah, I've gotten a lot better.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, it's really important that you, with your inner life, say, wait a second, I know that there's more I want to go toward. And let me just take a moment to also acknowledge I've already come quite far. Not as far as I want to be, but I've come quite far. And to let in that wisdom that is in you that has already guided you. And to just take a moment to acknowledge that. And the next thing I would invite is, even as you're listening right now, to be feeling your whole self. And how do we do that? Well, to feel, if you're sitting, feel your bottom on the cushion the chair that you're sitting on. And feel your feet, if they're touching the floor or wherever they are, to actually literally ground yourself in your body in this moment. Can you find that?
Yeah. It's hard to find. Sometimes it's hard for me to feel my feet recently, but yeah.
Say it again?
Sometimes I've had a hard time feeling my feet recently, but I can feel it now.
Right, and that I really want to say that that's a key piece of finding your presence, is finding your ground in this moment. And when you feel your bodily ground in this moment, then you can turn toward the places in yourself that feel pushed or pressured or questioning what's the next step, and you can actually turn toward those places and say to them, those voices inside, I know you're there, and I know you're trying to help me move to my next step. And just from that part already, being grounded in your body, and instead of fighting any of the challenging voices, actually turn toward them and say, I know you're there. And you might even feel those voices in your body. There might be some contractions in your belly or chest. Can you follow what I'm saying right now?
Yeah, I did, because I tend to resist it, and especially if I feel my mom around me going, you should be doing this. And I realize if I just kind of breathe into all, accept it all as in my space. And I don't know if this is what you're talking about, but then it kind of, I don't feel that.
Right. Well, that's a really big step, to be able to breathe, to be able to sense yourself, and to recognize that something inside feels really pushed by your mom, and to listen to, is there a part of what your mom is saying that feels right, that feels intelligent, or is it simply her anxiety that's working on you?
It mostly feels like her anxiety.
Say it again?
There's a truth.
Speak up a little louder. Go ahead, Kimberly. Yeah.
Okay. It mostly feels like her anxiety. There's a little bit of truth to, you need you need to move forward. I don't think she knows.
Right.
Her idea of me moving forward isn't the same as mine, though.
Right. So let me give you just a little another piece here. Is it would be really helpful if this feels right. You have to, everything I say, you have to feel into and see if it feels right, because I don't know you and I'm not saying I know what you need. But if you can acknowledge to your mother, you know, Mom, I really hear what you're saying. You're really concerned about this, and I can feel that too. Thank you for that. And, you know, when you keep saying it, I start feeling a kind of pressure inside, and that's not so helpful for me. But I know that you're really concerned about me, and I appreciate that. Could you imagine a communication like that?
Yeah, I think that would be different than our normal communication.
Yeah. And, you know, it's so interesting, Kimberly. I notice that the people around us who we feel are challenging for us most often have something in what they are perceiving that is helpful and accurate, and it's helpful to acknowledge that part, even if it feels like 1% of what they're saying. It's helpful to start there. And it's also helpful to know that when someone else's voice or my own voice, your own inner voice, is creating a kind of contraction in your body, that there's something that's needing attention, and to turn toward what is asking for attention. Because if your mom said something that was completely off the wall, you might be concerned about her, but you wouldn't be concerned about yourself.
Mm.
You got it?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I worry because I do worry about moving forward. I worry about the time that it's taken and why I'm not, you know. But and I identify with that. But
yeah.
So can I jump in real quick here?
Go ahead.
To conclude this, Kimberly? I'm so appreciating your call, as Russell said, because I know so many people can relate to this. And a couple of things that I just want to add that came up for me is, are you willing to forgive yourself for any grievance that you have against yourself for things that have transpired in the past? Not to say you wouldn't have done it differently, not to say you haven't learned from it. I'm sure you have, but are you willing to say, you know, to that sweet inner child inside of you, I love you no matter what's happened. And just giving yourself that forgiveness. It feels like you're holding something against you still, and I know that Russell's approaching it in a really helpful, beautiful way, and he's given you some great tips. And that's the one thing that occurs to me, if you can just put down that burden.
I'm getting there. I'll be honest. Like yesterday, I was so stuck. I was like, why am I so stuck with this? And I realized it was about letting myself off the hook.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And
okay.
I didn't really do anything wrong. Yeah. But I still get mad. I would say I still get mad because I want to model, and this past year has been very difficult on my body. And I'm mad because I had some really great opportunities, and I feel like I lost them because I was being so negative.
Well, and you may have had some great opportunities. You may have, and I can so relate to what you're saying. And I know that Russell can too. And so we're coming up to the end of the show, so we need to conclude. But Russell, do you have, what I want to say is I'm sure that you did, and there's always another wave, and new opportunities are just waiting to come into your life as you put some of the things that Russell offered you into practice. Any last thoughts for Kimberly, Russell, before we let her go? And
yeah, just the essence that I want to say, Kimberly, is to trust the unfolding of your life, which means the opportunities that were there before were not for you because they didn't happen. The opportunities that are for you are the ones coming.
Beautifully said. Kimberly, thank you so much for calling into the show, and I want to invite you to call back in a week or two if you'd like to check in with me and let me know how you're doing.
Well, thank you. I might do that. I would love to do that probably.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
You have it.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. You have everything you need to move forward. I'm feeling your strength. I am. Okay. So, Russell, thank you so much for that. We are actually coming up to the end of the show, and I want to, I know, it goes so quickly. I want to let everybody know that you are leading a transformative embodied life weekend workshop here in Seattle, March 15th and 16th. And I know it's going to be amazing. There's also a free introductory talk with a suggested donation Friday, March 14th. And I want to let everyone know that all the details about that, those offerings are on russelldelman.com, RussellDelman.com. I'll also post the link to Russell's website on my Facebook page, and it's in the chat room right now. And there's just a few spots remaining for the workshop. They're still offering, thanks to Russell's generosity, a discounted early bird pricing. So to get that, you can call Leanne at 206-372-8822. I'll post that on Facebook as well. 206-372-8822 to get the discounted early bird pricing. Russell, we're at the end of the show. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Betsy. And I just want to say, for the people who are calling Leanne, let her know you heard it on Betsy's show.
On the radio,
that's how you'll get the early bird special.
Perfect. Thank you,
Great.
Russell.
Well, bless you. Take good care, everybody.
Yes, you too. Thank you. And everybody, bye-bye. We're at the end of the hour. Thanks for listening to Just Say Yes with me, your host, Betsy Gutting. See you back next week.
You've been listening to Just Say Yes with your host, Betsy Gutting, right here at 12radio.com, where we're changing the way you listen to the world.